What's up, gamers? This is Yuban with a Mechabellum Replay commentary. Today we are going to show you how we play Assault Marksman with Tarantula into opponent's Mass Giant board. Looking at the starting packs, we were debating between Amplifying Core and Typhoon spec. We decided to go for the Typhoon spec because it comes with a free unit, and we don't mind playing Tarantula Marksman start since we are addicted to playing the Assault Marksman. Our opponent is a top 30 ranked world ranking player, Dzemp, sitting at around 22 to 2300 MMR when we met, going for the Giant spec with Sledgehammer and Chaff units. This is a phenomenal starting pack for our opponent as the Sledgehammers allows early game stabilization. It's good against everything, which allows our opponent to get into the Giant units relatively safe. On our side, we decided to sell out of the cannon on the defensive wall, thinking that the likelihood of our opponent pushing the defensive wall is less. And depending on where he's placing his units, if we were to go into a headbutt position here, then maybe leaving the anti-armor cannon would be somewhat useful to help us win the fight. From here, two crawlers going for a mid-range deployment position once again, roughly 5 tiles in front of the line, allowing us to be flexible in terms of pushing or defensive, and we don't run into the risk of our Tarantula locking onto a heavy Giant unit in the front. You'll see that because we are anticipating playing Assault Marksman right off the bat, we are putting our Marksman literally on the same line as our Tarantula. We don't mind these guys being forward. As you can see here, allows us to lock onto the cannon, both cannons in fact, relatively quickly, taking down our opponent's static defense. And with our superior chaff clear with the two Tarantulas, seems like our right side push is going to do quite well, clean up most of the units before our opponent's crawlers can get a counter tower debuff. And with one Tarantula at half health, we should be able to clean up the rest of the board with no problem at all. And here you see the power of the Sledgehammers. That even though we concentrated our power on the one side, the combination of the cannons and the Sledgehammers allowed our opponent to take very minimal damage on round 1, when we should have been just crushed his army with our Tarantula Marksman. Anyways, looking at the unit reinforcement, we recognized our opponent did not have any powerful upshoot, so maybe we could have gone for Phantom Ray. We could also go for a Fire Badger to put it in the deep corner here. However, since we are already into Tarantulas, we thought maybe not. We can just use a Tarantula for the same thing. And we also thought that opponent will not pick Phantom Ray because we are into Marksman. However, if he had picked the Wasp reinforcement, that would be pretty troublesome for us, as it would take our Marksman forever to shoot down 1 to 2 packs of Wasp. Without a train of thought, we decided to pick up the Wasp ourselves, and actually getting another deployment. This is going to allow us to defend our deep flank on both sides, while allowing us to also get another Tarantula in the middle here. As we saw from round 1, the crawlers, the chaff units from this cross position coming in, were causing our outside Marksman a lot of trouble. You'll see us doing this kind of preemptive defense when we're in aggro. for the reason of I simply just want to free up my mind. I want to free up the resource of my brain power to be able to focus on breaking through our opponent's defense. And I don't want to have to overthink and think about defending my flank every single round. So by covering our butts right here and having the wasp moving super fast, they still pose a threat to our opponent's weak side tower. Let's see how this round turns out. Seems like marksman on the right side locks on to our opponent's newly deployed Sabertooth from the unit reinforcement. And by taking out the Sabertooth and the sledgehammers in the front, it's just opening up a channel for our tarantulas to feast on our opponent's fangs, and even allowing this guy to stay alive with 5% HP. Going into round 3 now, efficient tech research comes up. We need 3 techs for this card to make its money back, and the 4th tech will make 50 supplies. Given that none of us have invested any supplies into a tech yet, this is a good card to pick up early in the game. As if the game goes into like round 8, round 9, it can just be very economical, especially for a giant spec where the giant technologies are all amazing. From here, we decided to just chaff up. Go for a Fang, go for Crawler, go for one more Marksman to set up our Assault Marksman line. And while our opponent decided to go for a double giant round, this is very clever. By unlocking the Vulcan in the previous round, our opponent is able to surprise us with 2 different kinds of giants, the Sandworm and Vulcan. This is going to pose a huge threat to our Assault Marksman lineup, as our Marksmen still get one-shotted by the Sandworms. Oh, barely. They'll survive one shot by a little bit. And we might... I don't know if we're gonna have enough DPS to take down our opponent's tanky units with a combination of almost 80,000 HP. As you can see here, seems like with all of the fangs stuck shooting at the tarantula, our wasps were able to do some damage and reduce the damage taken on this round. So our opponent strikes back with a surprise double giant round. Very, very cool. Very interesting way of playing the giant spec. Okay, going into round 4, opponent immediately goes for the Ion Blast. This item on round 3, round 4 is honestly not too bad of an idea, as it comes back relatively quickly compared to the other big red spells, and with our units all lined up in a straight line here, he's going to get a lot of value. We thought the same. Even though it's not so good for economy, we thought that our marksmen need levels. And if we can reduce the number of threats on the board on the right side, perhaps it'll open a channel for our marksmen to get some kills and get some levels in the process. So with that, we draw our lines as best as we can. Get one more marksman, one more crawler, and start to build out our deep flank annoyance pull. This is the beauty of playing Assault Marksman, as we're able to deploy these 100 supply units in the deep flank to pull a lot of our opponent's chaff units, and most importantly, requiring our opponent to put down some kind of DPS and chaff clear to deal with the corner pull. So next round, he's forced to put something here, maybe like a Vulcan or a Sandworm. With us running out of time, you see that we made a crucial mistake. We put down 2 bubbles in front of our tarantula. And you're going to see that this is going to be a waste of 100 supply, as This bubble does not protect our tarantula because we're walking forward, and also got popped. Therefore, it literally did nothing for it except to waste money. On the left side here, with our power spike turn with the Typhoon, we went for a corner push, but opponent anticipated it by leveling this guy up to level 2. So now, our right side just gets destroyed without the support of our left side tower debuff. Luckily, we were able to take down our opponent's singular Vulcan, and with a few wasps surviving in the air, and our marksman chipping away at these 2 sandworms, both near death door. Are we gonna be able to take down the sandworm and grab some levels? Or is this going to be a tie, causing us to take 700 HP? Let's see here. Seems like 1 down, and the second sandworm is down too. So very, very lucky. This should have been a round that we had lost horribly due to the Ion Blast and the failed attempt at taking down the tower. However, we're able to save ourselves a lot of HP and grabbing 2 Wasp levels in the process. That's the power of air units. Now, going to round 5, Nano Repair Kit is a must pickup for our opponent, as it goes really well on the Vulcan and goes even better on the Sandworms. On our side, we decided to go for the Underground Threat, thinking that these 2 sandworms rushing into our medium-sized unit army is very deadly. So perhaps we can put down some crawlers in the back to tie them up so they can move back, stay there for quite a while, allowing our frontline Tarantula marksman army to take a stab at taking down the Vulcan. And this is going to be reinforced by further pulling our opponent's backside corner chaff units into this deep flank. Now our opponent is stuck with 1.5 packs of chaff with 1 pack of sledgehammers to deal with this many tarantulas and marksmen. Now we have a level 2 and level 2 unit in his corner. We're feeling pretty optimistic about pushing in. At least I just want to take down 1 or 2 Vulcans, reduce the damage taken to our HP, so we can buy time to find a solution against our opponent's giant units. And here you see exactly what we're talking about earlier. This 1 marksman requires a singular giant unit to take care of. And even with the sandworm, it's tied up for an extensive amount of time. Look at how long it's taken everything here. And all this time bought is allowing our medium-sized units, even without a lot of DPS, to take down both of our opponent's Vulcans. And with that pull, we were actually able to expose the level 2 tower, causing a double tower debuff situation. And once again, with the help of our Wasp in the air, we're going to take down our opponent's giant units, even with the Nano Repair Kit. Feeling very fortunate about the situation here. Now, going to round 6. Another reinforcement, heavy armor, phenomenal item for any giant unit. Probably put it on a Vulcan so this guy doesn't die as fast, I'm guessing. For us, we also went for the heavy armor, thinking that perhaps our Tarantulas can use a little bit of more HP to tie up the Vulcan shots and maybe survive 1 extra shot from the sandworms, if possible. So last round you saw what we were trying to achieve. By pulling our opponent's army into 4 different directions, we were able to utilize a much weaker army. Typically, this Tarantula marksman army should not be able to beat our opponent's Vulcan Sandworm army. However, by pulling it apart, we're able to concentrate our forces against our opponent's fraction of his army. And that allowed us to take the victory. And this has bought us enough time to get to round 6 with a little more supply in hand and all of our chaff and chaff clear setup complete to get our first major damage dealing unit, the Overlord, aka Boat. Let's see if our opponent's oil drop round is going to turn the tide by destroying every single one of our chaff units on the ground. However, our combination of Overlord and level 2 Tarantulas seems to make instant work of our opponent's Vulcan in the front line, and even taking down the level 2 Sandworm with Nano Repair Kit. Once we got to this point, seeing that there were no more fangs left on the board, we were feeling very solid, especially when we still have some wasp in the air. And with our Overlord and Tarantula still alive, we're going to take our opponent down to roughly 1500 HP going into round 7. Alright, round 7 unit reinforcement. Opponent immediately goes for Sabertooth and go for the instant sell. On our side, we were contemplating between the Sabertooth and the Rhino. We thought maybe we can use a little more DPS to deal with our opponent's Sandworms. However, we decided to go for the Rhino for a little bit of late arriving Rhino Wasp action. A little late arriving gospel, if you will. Our thought process here was that if he goes for something tankier, maybe like double Rhino, something big in the back corner, there's a chance that our Wasp would not be able to take down the flank. So having the Rhinos here is going to serve as insurance, and by having these guys late arriving after the Vulcan has cleared all the light chaff units in the front, they could potentially take tower or just serve as an extra layer of tank for our units here. And with the remaining cash, 2 more boats, level up our boat, and go for the Overlord Artillery, aka Chin Gun. You'll notice that we have completely switched our boat tech from the carry tech to the Chin Gun, Mothership, and Jump Drive tech for more fun aggro shenanigans. Let's see. Our opponent just reinforced more Vulcans, going for best partner as his anti-air method against our Overlord. With the first Vulcan instantly getting targeted down and the level 2 Sandworm not standing a chance, it seems like our opponent's marksmen are going to be stuck shooting at the Rhino as well as the Wasp in the air. This is going to allow us to take a complete air victory, having all 3 boats alive, with our opponent left with no anti-air. And that's going to spell GG on round 7 against our very solid opponent, Dzemp. Looking at this board, I initially, when an opponent went for the giant units, we thought about going into like forcing assault marksman and trying to go for range and elite, maybe taking down the giant units. However, we decided to just take a pause, thought about, okay, we don't need to sell out of our marksmen as they're like a second layer of chaff or tank. They also chaff clear a little bit. So let's just use them for all 4 corners of distraction, pulling our opponent's units apart to minimize the damage taken. We were not expecting to win any of the earlier rounds once the giants were dropped. We just wanted to buy time for our techs, for our units to get some levels, and for our head to wrap around this current board to decide on finally what to take. And we decided to go for the Overlord. I think alternatively, we could have also gone for like Fortress with range and launcher overload. That would have been another really good option. Yeah, that concludes our replay analysis for today. Thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time.